Hi everyone, welcome to Rosie's Dessert Spot. Today I'll be walking you guys through how to create a basic bread roll. These are adorable, tiny bite-sized morsels and I'm cooking them 3 different ways. We have pasta fritta, the regular oven, and then the Gosni pizza oven. So sit back and enjoy. I will leave the recipe ingredient amounts in the description box below. Here I'm combining the flour and almost all of the water together. You want to mix it until you get this really shaggy looking dough. I'm going to let that rest for about half an hour just to really allow the flour to absorb that liquid. You can avoid this step and just go straight into mixing all the ingredients, but this does make your dough a lot stronger. The remaining amount of water, maybe about 1/4 of a cup or so worth, I'm going to dissolve my honey or maple syrup and then add in my yeast. Make sure to stir that through until it's all dissolved and then let it sit there for about 10 to 15 minutes or until it looks a little something like this. Add it to your main bowl and then with a hook attachment, allow it to run on medium speed for about 2 minutes or so. When your dough starts to look a little something like this, you can add in your salt. Allow that to run for about 5 to 8 minutes until your dough looks a little something like this. It's coming off the edges, it's super duper smooth looking on the outside, and when you touch it, it does not stick to your hands. This is 65% hydration for those of you who speak bread. I've gone for a 65% here. And then I'm going to take my bread and give it a good smack on my bench top, continue to fold it in on itself, and then press it into a really tight ball. From here I am going to allow it to rest for half an hour with a little bit of olive oil over the top, and then the Glad wrap just stops it from drying out. I always cover it with a towel just to keep it away from sun. I don't really think you have to, but it's just habit. Then I'm going to, after half an hour, give it a good stretch. Now this was so stretchy that if I were to have lifted it, I don't think my arms would have been tall enough. So I am going to instead grab it, give it a bit of a tug up and down motion to really stretch that dough out nice and thin. By doing this, we are really strengthening the gluten that's in the bread, and you're going to end up with a much more formed and balanced bread roll. So it's not going to be flat, it's going to stretch nicely, you're going to get a little bit more air within the crumb. And then once it's stretched to as much as it can, roll it back into a ball. You can repeat this step again if you like, or if you're lazy like me, you can just allow it to do its bulk ferment. So basically you're just going to add it into an oiled bowl and allow this to double in size. This could take an hour, it could take 3 hours depending on the weather and the temperature in the room. But I'm going to add some Glad wrap so it doesn't dry out, and then a towel on top of that. I think the towel just really helps to keep a balanced temperature inside the bowl. That's just my theory. And then onto the countertop she goes after she's doubled in size with a little bit of flour to help it not to stick. This is actually too much dough for the little bread roll project I had in mind, so I am actually going to divide 3 balls that weigh 300 grams each, and then I'm just going to pop them into the freezer. I am going to make pizza with this eventually, and when I do, I'll allow it to sit in the fridge overnight to thaw, and then at room temperature for about 4 to 5 hours until it's doubled in size and ready to roll out. I have these little plastic containers and I pop it onto baking paper. As soon as I take it out of the freezer, remove the baking paper, because if it has a chance to expand, that baking paper is going to stick and you're going to destroy the bowl. With a log of that dough, I am going to be folding it in on both sides and then connecting the top and the bottom. I hope that made sense. I'll be showing you guys one more time again. Then roll it into a log and cut out little pillows. I'm going to roll these into tiny little balls again, and then we're going to allow them to expand and rise for another half hour to 40 minutes. I have semolina flour. I prefer to use semolina compared to plain flour. I find that it just doesn't stick as much, whereas regular flour, I think it just absorbs some of that moisture and becomes a little bit sticky. Semolina, on the other hand, doesn't. So again, allow that to rest and continue with your other little logs. So I fold it in half both ways, and then I take the top and the bottom and I stick those together. These are going to be for the fryer, so I do have plain flour in that, and I am going to allow that one there to rise in the oven with a little bit of hot water to help to rise faster. There's also a tray in there with baking paper and some tiny bowls for the oven cooking. Here I have the Gosney Dome pizza oven. I am going to start preheating this baby, and when she is at about 360 degrees Celsius, I know I'm ready to start cooking my bread. I'm going to be cooking the bread on a cast iron pan. Just makes it a little bit easier to drag in and out of the oven. Once it's heated up, I'm going to add my little round bread rolls. I have a razor that I'm going to be cutting just a straight line over the top. And then very carefully with oven safe gloves, heat-proof gloves, add it back into the dome. I've raised the flame because I find that the more heat hits the balls at the very beginning, the more likely they are to really expand and give you a really nice airy crumb. I'm going to lower the flame now that they've expanded a little bit and coloured. I'm going to turn them to make sure that the non-coloured side is now facing the flame, and continue this until you are happy with the golden colour on your bread rolls. This whole process takes about 6 to 8 minutes for me. For the pasta fritta, which is just a fried bread dough, something that you'll find in Italy, and if you go down south of Italy and the restaurant offers you pasta fritta, you have got to do it. If you don't order it, you are doing a great disservice to yourself. Trust me, you've got to try it. Into a pan with just regular canola oil, heated to 180 degrees, I am dropping in these little bread pillows. After about 2 or so minutes, give them a flip. Then another 2 minutes later, flip them again, see how the color's going, and when you're ready, drain them onto a plate with some paper towel. Continue to fry off all your little breads, and then you can either make a dessert out of this and sprinkle on some caster sugar, or you can keep it savory for antipasti purposes and sprinkle on some salt instead. Because this is a bread recipe video, I am going to add some Celtic salt, give it a bit of a toss to coat, and that is method number 2 done, pasta fritta. The final way that we can cook these is in a regular oven. So I have the oven preheated to 230 degrees Celsius. I've just scored the top of my rolls, and then bake those for about 20 minutes. The moment they hit the oven, I'm going to start dropping the temperature down to 200, and 20 minutes later they should look a little something like this. Inside each of these little bread rolls is a delicious crumb. That was the oven. This one here's a pasta fritta, and the final one was cooked by the fire in the Gosney Dome. And I found that this one here had the loosest crumb, in the sense that it was the most aerated. And that concludes our bread recipe today. Which one will you be trying? Is it the pasta fritta, the regular oven, or by the fire in a pizza oven? Let me know in the comments below if you do give this a go and which was your favorite. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. We also have cake decorating tutorials, obviously, and cake decorating workshops are happening as well. So you can check out Patreon if you'd like to be part of those workshops. Thank you so much for tuning in, and we'll catch you guys again in the next one.